Ladies and gentlemen, this is Nate Cresswell, your host for today and forever, and welcome back to another episode of the Lawyers in the Making podcast, where it is my job to focus on the unique journeys to the law and law school of professionals in the legal field and law students. But let's talk about what we're doing today, because today we have another incredible guest. She's a Western State College of Law graduate and currently works as the co-owner and managing partner at Blasser Law and as the founder of Law School Success Institute. She has held past positions as a law professor and director of academic success and bar preparation, and as a deputy city attorney at Alvarez, Glassman, and Calvin. Excited to have her on the podcast today, Mrs. Lisa Blasser. Welcome to the podcast. How are we doing today? Before going any further, I'd like to say a quick word about the sponsor of this podcast, Rhetoric. Back in episode 25, I had the privilege of having the CEO, Luke Yingling, on the podcast, and ever since that episode, fell in love with the product. Rhetoric takes user briefs and motions and compares them against the text of opinions written by judges to identify ways to tailor their arguments to better persuade the judges handling their cases. Rhetoric's focus on persuasion and helps users find new ways to improve their odds of success through more persuasive arguments. Know more, win more. I was able to see a demo of the product, and its cutting-edge technology and fascinating features make for a product I am proud to sponsor, and further shows the new digital era the field of law has been entering thus far on my journey doing this podcast. If you decide to book a demo, let them know Nate sent you. Be sure to check them out in the show notes below or at userhetoric.com. One word, userhetoric.com. Now, back to the show.
I'm doing fabulous. Thank you so much for having me and for that wonderful introduction. I super appreciate it. That was great.
Oh, thank you. I'm so hyped up right now. I don't know what's going on, but I got all this energy right now. I can't wait for this conversation. But Lisa, before we get started, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Sure. I am a lifelong learner. I am a natural, curious thinker. And everything I do starts from that premise of what can I learn and whose experiences might I understand that I don't currently. I am in love with my job 100%. I love my career in the law. I love that I still practice and I still get to work with my biggest passion is helping law students, teaching them through my business, the Law School Success Institute. And life is very good over here in sunny Southern California.
Well, you know what? Life is just as good over here, except I don't get that sunny Southern California. I'm up here in Albany. It is actually so cold today. It is ridiculous. But you know what? This past week, we had a couple good days, a couple 70 degrees, 65 degrees. It was sunny. So I shouldn't be complaining. I shouldn't be complaining. Just be happy about it. Happy we're living. And I love that you're a
Right.
learner for life, student for life, just like myself. Always gotta be. It's a wonderful mindset to have. But let's go back all the way. 2001, you were at San Diego State University. You got a bachelor's of science in criminal justice. And that next year, you ended up at Western State College of Law. So, simply put, Lisa, why'd you do it? Why'd you go to law school?
Okay, so I went to law school to prove to myself that I could do something really hard. Um, I kind of had, always thought I was, a smart girl, but my intellect didn't really show through in traditional ways. Like it wasn't in my grades, it wasn't in, my LSAT score, it wasn't really in anything. And so I wanted to prove to myself um, that I could teach myself things and learn something very difficult and perform at a new level that I hadn't experienced before. I was like, what can I do to do that? Oh, let's go to law school. So then I just sent in my application, took that LSAT, sent in my applications, and then I went there. That's really the genesis of it.
I mean, listen, any reason is a good reason. Any rationale is a good rationale. So I think it's a wonderful thing. Get that intellectual stimulation. Challenge yourself. I love doing that, and you clearly do as well. But let's talk about that first year. Let's see, did you stand the test of time in terms of challenging yourself intellectually? How was that first year?
It was very challenging. So I met that goal. It was very challenging. And my second semester, my first semester, I like flew at right above the GPA minimum, and that second semester I fell underneath it. And so I got that beautiful letter from the law school that I have framed on my wall next to my JD, and my license, saying, Lisa, you have one semester to get your act together, or you'll be dismissed academically from the law school for poor performance. And so all those things in my head, Nate, I was like, oh man, don't have those, I don't have those grades again. It's happening. And so what can I do? So I was facing a new challenge, not new information, but a new way of thinking about my own performance and how I can excel at doing, studying. And that's what happened in my first year. That first year was a good one. And I was very frustrated and very upset and embarrassed. And then I let myself feel that, because I believe in loving yourself and accepting where you are at all stages. And then I said, what can I do? I'm not going to sit here and feel like this forever. So I picked up, and I said, what I really took a hard look, examined what I was doing to study. And then I went to experts and I was like, hey, here's what I do. What could I be doing to be more efficient, to gain a deeper understanding, and really just thrive and enjoy this experience while I succeed? And so I got a lot of feedback. And I went to every professor and I wore that probation status as a badge of honor. And I said, hey, professors, I'm on probation. I want to do well in your class. And here's my intention. Here's what I plan to do. How can I do well for you? What's your preference? And it went from there. I created a great process to run every topic that I learned through. And I graduated exponentially. My GPA just shot through the roof, graduated with honors, passed the California bar my first attempt. And boom, I proved that I could do hard things and that I'm capable. And that's awesome. It makes me happy.
Absolutely. I mean, it makes me happy to hear that. I have to second the loving of yourself. I think that's super important. Some people think I love myself a little too much, but that's all right. That's all right. There's never enough love for yourself. There really isn't. But I want to talk about this. Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, there really isn't. I agree with you. You have to love yourself. There's no too much love for yourself. I mean, we're not arrogant. We just believe in ourselves and we want what's best and we want to give our best. And I think that's the definition of loving yourself.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Lisa. But I want to ask about the strategies that you were taking in law school that helped you bring up your GPA and get you off that probation list.
Okay, so I just thought you were supposed to do everything. I thought that you're supposed to like read and brief and outline and write and do this like crazy like IRAC and do all these things that you're supposed to do. And so I did everything on like one 100 to 200 page document for each class. And then I just tried to memorize that. And then I just went and took these exams, and I was like, oh, I knew so much more. Why did I fail that? I just didn't know. No one was, I'm a first generation law student myself. And I don't have anybody in the family that's ever been, in this arena. I didn't know any other lawyers. I didn't have any, guidance in that realm. And no one in my family really understood what I was going through. Even though they were incredibly supportive and loving, it still wasn't, it was difficult. So I was able to say, what is it I need to learn in each class? And so take it from 200 pages to say, there is a specific thing. There are, 20 topics I'm going to learn in class A. There are 5 topics in class B. There are 4 in C, right? So it's like, what am I going to do to master each of those individual topics and really just take it day by day and shorten my goal from I have to get a 4.0 and graduate with honors to what can I do today to excel and to take a step towards meeting that goal, that academic goal. Be easy on yourself, a little easier on yourself. Find some grace there.
No, of
It's really
course.
what.
I think it's an important point you're bringing up, sort of those baby steps. You got to compound your interest, but you got to start somewhere. You can't go all in. I think something that reminds me of it with like addiction and stuff. Usually they don't say like you shouldn't just go straight cold turkey. You got to give it a little time. You got to let it seep in a little bit. Take it day by day, take it night by night, not in the grand scheme. You move your GPA a little bit and then you move it and eventually you're at a 4.0 and you're like, oh my gosh, like my interest has compounded. You're getting those reps in. I love to hear that. But I want to talk a little bit about the experiences that you had in law school. You were a law clerk to the Senior United States Federal District Court with the Honorable Judge Robert Takasugi. Did I say that right?
He sure did.
Oh,
The
wow.
late great Judge Takasugi. He was a phenomenal man, a phenomenal judge on the bench. Um, and I went to my law school. It was shortly after I had gotten off of probation. And I said, hey, I want to do this externship. And the law school had never had a federal judge, in their program. And the dean told me, sorry, you're not academically qualified, to be in our program. Your GPA is too low and we want you to focus on your academics. So this was actually before I got the externship with Judge Takasugi. And so I was like, oh man, I really want to do this. I know it's gonna benefit me learning how to apply these skills I'm learning in law school practically and see them in the courtroom because I knew I wanted to do litigation. And so I went out and I found this externship on my own. I interviewed for it and I got the position. There was 100 other students that I fought for, and four of us got it. And they believed in me despite those academic markers, right? Despite those not really being there in my transcript, those numbers. But I went in there and I just told them, look, I'm gonna learn, and I'm gonna give your judge, and I'm gonna give him 100%. So it worked. And I went back to the dean and I said, hey, I have this. Can I be a part of the program now? And she's like, oh, sure, sure. So she let me part of the program. And I was like, okay. So I was part of the program and I got, units for taking, working all those hours every week for the judge. It was awesome. Oh man, it's such a good experience. Such a good experience.
So from that, I heard you say that you wanted to do litigation. Now, how exactly did you go about figuring out that you wanted to do litigation? That was the thing that you wanted to do.
Because Nate, I wake up and every single day that I wake up, I am naturally pumped, passionate, excited. I want to help others. I want to be out there. I could talk to a wall and have a great conversation. I just love life. And I have this gregarious side of me that will never stop loving others. And so I connect with people well. And so being in front of a judge and a jury, it just felt very natural. It felt something I would love to do.
Lisa,
That's how.
I gotta say, we got that one thing in common. What's funny is I was on the phone with my dad yesterday, and he was talking about how when I was first born, I had like an underdeveloped jaw. So I didn't speak till I was like 9 months old, something crazy like that. And so I'd like point at things, and my brother would get everything from me. And my parents would get so mad at him. They're like, you gotta stop doing that. You gotta make him say something. So I had to go to speech therapy for like a couple months, and I had to develop. And then once I started talking, my dad was like, "You just didn't shut up." So that's why I do this podcast, because everybody's like, "Nate, you don't shut up," and it's like, okay, I might as well just talk on here. And because I just like myself, I could talk to a wall for like hours. Just
Right.
I feel that more than anything else in this life. I love
Nothing
talking.
gonna stop.
Exactly, and I'll never stop talking. I will never stop talking because I can't. It's just within me. But so.
Me too.
I, So after that, you were a law clerk at DeWitt, Allegory, and Allegory, and you were there until the end of your law school term. And then after that, you had became an associate attorney with them. So can you talk a little bit about that experience there? How was that? Did you love it? Did you hate it? How was it?
I absolutely fell in love with the law, learning from Mark Algori and Ernie Algori and Louis DeWitt, the late Louis DeWitt. Um, Ooh, those three still to this day, I've been practicing going on 20 years. They are the most incredible, talented, brilliant lawyers I've ever seen. They get out there and they make it happen with their brain, their wit, their character. And so I was very blessed early on to learn from greats. And I didn't know that they were greats because I was new. I just thought everyone, this is how it worked. Um, until I started practicing a little more, year 5, 6, 7, and you're like, okay. And you really realize, what you've been exposed to and how you've been trained. And I carry what I learned from them in my personal injury cases today in every case. Every case gets that same system that they applied still, and I still talk to them. I adore those gentlemen. They are fabulous humans, great lawyers. I mean, how lucky are you to like start out the gates, cut your teeth with a firm? That's brilliant. and that's where I was, so that's what I did. And then I was there for several years, and then wanted to try something different, but always in the back of my head knowing, Nate, I want to give back to students to fill that gap in legal education where I know it's missing, and save somebody else from that high stake failure that I had to, endure and go through. So kind of that's my little path. I was a city attorney, deputy city attorney for 5 cities in LA County here. Great experience on the litigation side, did a lot of police litigation, um, civil rights litigation, a lot of environmental law stuff. And it was great. I learned some more, but I did realize that personal injury is my jam. That's where I want to be. So my husband and I opened up our firm in 2013. So we're going on, 11 years. And I handle all the personal injury stuff, and he does family law and estate planning. And I met him in law school. So there's another great idea, great reason to go to law school. You meet your, you know. But yeah, that's kind of my story, my litigation, and my how I started, and why I love it, you know.
So I want to ask, because in the past on this podcast, whenever I ask people about starting their own law firm, they usually it opens up a Pandora box because there's some struggles to it. It's a struggle opening up your own thing. So can you talk about opening your own firm? What it went into that? What sort of steps that you took, and some of the struggles that you may have faced, and how you overcame them?
Yeah. We started on day one. We brewed a pot of coffee and we went out to our office. We had like a separate back house in the back of our yard. And we went and we said, okay, we pulled out a yellow pad, and he sat on one side and I sat there. We drank our coffee and said, let's create a list of what we would need to do to start a law firm. And so we still have that list we still have it. We have it framed now, and it's in our office, but it was create a website. It was the basics, right? All the things that we just didn't have. Find a logo, determine our name, to create a budget, like how much do we need to bring in? What's our bare minimum? Reach out we created a list of people that had reached out to us in the year before that needed like odds and ends, and we were willing to like take it to get paid to get that first, make it that first year. um, One of the best things is we consulted with other attorneys, just like I consulted with professors, when I was in law school, who had been doing it and who were successful, and said, hey, what do you think? We created this website, this is our plan. And just the advice they were willing to spend, give us an hour and say, whoa, you guys are doing like way too much. Find yourself a specialty so that you can be the go-to person for this, as opposed to like doing 14 things to get somebody in the door, you know? And yes, there were lean months, but knock on wood, we've always looked at worst case scenario and said, okay, what's the worst that could possibly happen? Okay, we lose the house, we'll find an apartment somewhere. We're still employable, we're cool people, we're good peeps, like we're gonna find our way. Like, who cares if we're not lawyers? Like, so we always have had that mindset, and it has served us, thankfully, very well.
No, I think that's such an excellent point. And actually, the podcast I just recorded just before this with Tony Albrecht,
Yeah.
we had talked about, or I had talked about fear setting, something that Tim Ferriss, he's a very famous podcaster, but he talks about fear setting and basically putting out that worst case scenario, putting out how bad it could, because sometimes we go around, we say, oh, how bad could it be? Well, let's list it out. Let's see how bad it could really get. And having that sort of mindset allows you to take the risk that you did by opening up your own firm. I mean, it's always a big risk doing that kind of thing because you never know. It's very uncertain times. You're not sure what could happen. Something could go wrong. But I think having that mindset, being able to be like, how bad could it really be? If we gotta sell the house, if we gotta live in an apartment, if we're in a box, it doesn't matter. If we're doing fine, we're doing healthy, we're spiritually healthy, it doesn't matter. We're gonna keep living.
As long as we have each other, as long as our hearts are beating, as long as our brains are ticking, we are solid. That's all we need in this world to continue. So when you get stressed out about the money, or stressed out about the clients or the cases, the cases actually aren't really your life. You are helping someone through. But if you give your best and a judge or a jury goes a different way, you can't harp on like how bad it's not you. Like, as long as you give your best in every situation, you're gonna fly. You're gonna spread your wings and you're gonna fly, and you're gonna have a great life.
I couldn't agree more. Lisa, you're speaking my language right now. I gotta say, you're absolutely speaking
Oh.
my language. But Speaking of language, speaking of words, you yourself are an author. Nine Steps to Law
Yeah.
School Success, a scientifically proven study process for success. So, can you talk about the book? What is it about? What are some important takeaways you want people to take away from the book?
To take away that there is a way to deepen your understanding um, of every topic you're about to learn by running it through a very specific system, number one. And number two, that system has to make sense to your brain. So you have to appeal to your learning preferences, your thought process, and you have to do that through using what's called metacognition, which I'm sure you're familiar with that term. But understanding how, when you're reading and you're doing these skills, how are you digesting information? So metacognition is really the key with appealing to your preferences to take this comprehensive study process for each topic that I have condensed from the successful study processes of other law students, to take it and make it your own. And last, I would say, I think we really need to step back in legal education and acknowledge and support and really just celebrate the differences that we all have in the way that we process information and how we make our mark in this profession. Because there's really no one way, there's no one background, there's no one gender, ethnicity, religion, any of these things, right? Preference, identity, if you believe in yourself, you're going to do well. So a lot of that is what I wanted to put out there in the book. So that students knew that, okay, there's a comprehensive way in doing it. How can I make it my own? You know,
Lisa, it sounds like you're saying there is no straight path to the law or law school, and there's only your own unique path. That's the whole point of this podcast. So it's
yeah,
wonderful to hear that. It's wonderful to hear that you're putting that message out into the world. But funny enough, I'm thankful that you think so highly of me and that you think I know what metacognition is. I actually have no idea what that means. So can you explain what it is and how you can effectively allow a sort of a metacognition framework to help you figure out what works for you?
absolutely. So I'll do it through the example of a skill. One of the skills in a study process is reading a case. So, reading a case. Um, on the cognitive side, if you're reading a case, you're taking in the black and white letters on the page and you're seeking out certain information. Where are the facts? What's the rule? Where's the court's reasoning? And what's the outcome of this case? Like, do I understand that? Right. And you're just pulling it from the text. So it's going to be in the language from the opinion, in the justices or in the judge's own words. Um, on the metacognition side, what you would start with is for the skill of reading. What do I know about this? First of all, what topic is this case designed to highlight? So you're setting a framework, a mental framework, and you're asking yourself, you're prepping yourself to learn where in the scheme of all the topics I'm learning, where does this case fit in and what does it highlight? And then you're going to ask her, do I know anything about this topic that might bias my reading of that or that might help my reading of that? Is there a supplemental case brief that I can read that will give me a basic layman's term of what happened in the understanding, even though it's different from the edited version in my casebook? That will give me that framework. Okay, did I read it? Okay, now, so then when I do the real read, it's easier to digest. Can I rephrase the rule into my own words, right? Am I able to make it make sense to me and deconstruct it into its individual elements or factors or balancing, portions? Um, Questions like that exist on the metacognitive side. And so that's kind of what I've done with the law school operating system for each of the skills in the study process. I give students a list of metacognitive questions to ask themselves to start that process, to really dig deep into going beyond the page, the words on the pages, and to make it their own.
Yeah, I think
That's kind of
I think what's most interesting is about that is that a lot of people always look for answers. We're always looking for answers in life. I mean, if you just think about like, why are we here? All right, you need an answer for that. But I think what's more important actually is asking the right questions, asking yourself the right questions, and clearly you're embodying that through this sort of metacognition, making sure that you're in the right framework. I always think back. I'm very into the gym. I'm a bit of a gym guy. But it very much applies to the gym because what's what's the scary part, but then the cool part about the gym is that a lot of it is there's so many different ways you could go about it. Just like studying, there's so many different ways that you could go about it. And that's a bit scary because there's so many different things that you could do. but you just have to try out which one works for you. But that's the beauty of it, is that there is that one unique way that works for you, and that will help you improve whatever skill you're doing. Either if it's that, lifting the weight for more reps than you did last week, or studying more efficiently than you did last week. It's all building skills. It's all asking the right questions, what I have to do here. So I think that's so beautiful. I find it triumphant. But
Oh, you're so sweet.
but the law school operating system you had just talked about. Can you talk a little bit about that? What do you guys offer? What goes into it? I want to hear all about it.
Thank you for asking about it. It's my flagship course that I teach. I offer 3 courses for law students and 3 courses for law schools. So I partner with law schools across this beautiful country to teach my program. For law students, I offer 3 different versions. I offer a recorded self-paced version of the course for $199 because I want to make it accessible to everyone who wants it, or discounted if you just text me or call me or email me. I'm going to help you out. I also offer a live version where I work with students in groups and I teach it live. And then I offer 90-minute coaching sessions to law students for any number of topics, that arise during law school. For the law schools, I offer the recorded course to their students, but law schools use it as an orientation or a pre-orientation, or in first generation professionals programs, or as a skills course, or for students on academic probation. They take my course either in the recorded version, a 1-day version, or a 3-day version, or some customized version of those, together. And I teach them those 3 things. How do I learn new information so I can customize the study process to myself? What is a comprehensive study process that I can see and understand how other students do it? And number 3, how do I calendar and schedule each of those study steps for every topic into my own weekly calendar? And so that's what they learn. That's what they get.
That's amazing. I think that's absolutely amazing. I mean, you're giving back to the community in beautiful ways, especially the law community, because those law students, those will be the people who will be the attorneys of this country. And the fact you're preparing them for to do such wonderful things and to do good work is such a great thing. You're doing a great thing here, Lisa. I gotta say, I gotta say, I gotta say. But you're also the founder of Law School Success Institute. Does that tie into everything here?
It is. And so that's the name of my business, where where I teach my flagship course. I mean, I've branded myself. My website is lisablasser.com, but I also I have this business because I do work, with law schools. And so and I'll go to I sponsor a lot of conferences, academic support conferences or pipeline programs. And so I do it through either, myself or my LLC, my company.
Mhm.
Um, my biggest mission is really, like, it's not about my opinion and, hey, when I was in law school 20 years ago, I did it this way. My biggest mission is, how do you learn? How can we help you? How can we find your needle in the haystack and make your brilliance shine? And so you can see it and everyone else can.
I have to ask, do you have any favorite stories from your experience doing this and helping law students out?
Which version on the scale of ratings? How do you want? Like, it has been a really cool journey. I have learned a lot about myself, where I thought, oh, this is really great. And I've had, successive iterations of the course and my teaching, because I'm still learning as a professor and a coach. And I welcome that. It's been humbling. It's been amazing. It's been, from the girl who didn't think she would succeed, I had or didn't think she was capable of doing these things and didn't think she was smart enough and all these things. That version of me doesn't exist anymore. I can't fathom that version of myself. And so I remember there was one day, maybe like a year ago, and I know I had on my calendar an appointment with a law school that was ranked, US News World and Report ranked, for whatever, take those for what they're worth, that was ranked number 3 at the time, and one that was ranked 180 at the time. And I thought to myself, these schools are coming to me because I offer something different that, doesn't exist out there. And it's all because of an idea I had, because of a failure I had, an idea that I had because of that failure to plug a gap. And so nobody, tier 1 to tier 199, we're at 199 here, or to ranking 199, it doesn't matter. if you are strong in your belief that you can help people, others will see it. And so that's kind of a cool story. I've got tons of student stories. Oh my gosh, tons and tons of those. But I don't, I'll take up all your time with those. My students are great. I love my students and my law schools.
I think I love it so much. I love what you're doing. Honestly, it's a tremendous undertaking, but the fact of being successful and the fact that it's very full circle for you. And I have to ask, it seems
Yeah.
like as much as you had your failure, you were on probation, can you talk a little bit about how important failing forwards is? Because clearly you did.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of times we shame ourselves for having an emotion, and having an emotion is just your body's way of telling you something's important to you. And so shaming yourself for your natural reaction is so counterintuitive and counterproductive. So failing forward means allow yourself to feel that negative emotion. Be frustrated with yourself. Be let down and disappointed by yourself. Yeah, that's normal. You should be, because that's going to fuel the next step. So taking action from being down in those trenches is what it's all about. And the more that you can train your brain when you're failing, or when you're like, I have no idea what the expletive that I'm doing is, the more you can train your brain to develop this internal coping mechanism that says, this isn't bad, and immediately go to, this is an opportunity for me to thrive, pretty soon here, the better you are. It's a mechanism that takes a lot of time to hone, and we're all honing it. No one's perfect, but the better that you are at it, the better you'll be, I think. you know
Of course, we're imperfect human beings. Once you accept that, you're like, all right, it's not that bad.
it's really not. Or also understanding too that other people, if they're giving you problems, or if they're harming you or hurting you, to realize that they're going through something that they're not aware of, and so not to take things personally. That's also another big piece of failing too, because you're going to get a lot of people, like, what feels like coming down at you. And if you just can see through that and be like, there's something that they're going through, or there's something I need to learn from this experience, it's not going to stop me.
I also think something you were saying before, that talk about the law is fun. Shouldn't take everything too serious. Not the, I try my hardest. I try my hardest because I think at one point in my life I took myself way too seriously. But now I don't. I don't take it's because you know what? Sometimes I mess up, sometimes I make mistakes, but everyone makes mistakes, and it's never that deep. It's never that deep. It is never that deep. And you move on, you keep going forward. And you're bringing all these philosophy quotes. I'm a philosophy major, so I always have these philosophy quotes that I bring up all the time. But one of them is this has supported me for a lot of my life. But like the only way is through. The only way is through. You could try to run from the emotions, you could try to push them down, but they're always gonna be there. And unless you confront them and just be able, just like yourself, like it's good to feel angry, it's good to feel frustrated. You gotta feel those feelings in order to really comprehend what you're feeling, what's going on, what's the root problem here. And then another one, like you said, you got to take that action. Aristotle, one of my favorite philosophers, said, knowledge without action is not knowledge at all. And I take that to heart very, very much. Very, very much. It's a wonderful quote.
100%. Right? Wallow in it, but not too long. Set a goal for yourself to get off it, and then take action. And that's why I love the system. I have so many systems at my law firm and in my business, my law school successes, because that's the action when I do something that's terribly, if I make a mistake, which we all do. So the action is the important part.
Of course, of course. But Lisa, final five questions. First question. So through my journey of doing this podcast, I felt that the law is moving in a certain direction. We're on the precipice of a new era. The old tradition is kind of being thrown to the side, and we got all these new AI stuff. We got new AI products, we got digital marketing. We have all this stuff that's moving into this new digital age, and we're getting rid of all the paper, and everything's digital. You do digital filings, there's e-filings, there's everything. So I have to ask, and I don't know, do you know what a tech stack is? Because that's my question. Do you have a tech stack? What does it look like?
I don't know what a tech stack is, I'll admit that. But we do use programming, AI programming, to help us with our letters, our memos, our motions. But we're very careful with it because the repercussions are immense and intense, I think. And I really honestly, something I might struggle with is if we are giving if we are really truly giving to our clients, our brain, what they're paying us for, what exists in our brain and our experience, is that enhanced or is it lessened by the use of something that's pulling from all these multiple sources online? I do struggle with that. I'm not sure the answer to it, but I do know it helps in certain ways for us. What is a tech stack?
So it's basically just the range of products that you may use. Something in my tech stack. Like I use Zoom, obviously. We're on Zoom right now. But I use Grammarly. Like Grammarly would be an example of something a part of your tech stack. There's a bunch of other examples, but I always like asking that question because I only started asking it recently because I very much felt like through a lot of these conversations that a lot more people are using these new technologies to enhance what they're doing at their law firms, cut some overhead, stuff like that. So I'm always just interested in asking that question. But if you don't have an answer, it's totally okay. It is totally fine.
We use Clio. Clio is like our best friend for the law firm. Um, and I mean, obviously we use Zoom too, but I don't know. We don't really have like, we're not super tech, I mean, tech geared or oriented in our law firm. It's very much about us and what we, kind of are. But I do think too, like I would love to learn. Like we're in a couple of coaching groups where we can learn how to systematize even better through the use of more technology in our firm, you know. And that's something that's appealing and interesting. But I am a little nervous. I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little nervous,
Hey,
to give away that. Uh,
listen. There's no worries about being nervous. It's a very big thing. It's a very grand-esque sort of move, but a lot more people are doing it, and I'm always interested. I'm always curious about what people have to say about it. But fourth to last question, Lisa, what official on the Lawyers in the Making podcast? What are your official book recommendations for people? It doesn't have to be about the law, just some of your favorite books you've ever read, something you give a gift to someone.
Something I would give a gift. I love Angela Duckworth's Grit. It's one of my most favorite books on the planet. She's phenomenal. I'm also a big Tony Robbins fan. So any of his books, I went to his Unleash the Power. He's phenomenal. Um, I was reading Elegant Legal Writing, by I have it in front of me,
Ryan
Ryan
McCarl,
McCarl.
yeah, I have that
Yeah,
book.
I was reading that. You have it too.
I
Yeah,
do.
I was reading that's very good for students. Um, you know, anything that shows, that like more mindset kind of comes through is my jam.
I agree. Mindset. I'm forgetting. Oh, I forget the name. It's sitting on my bedside. I'm forgetting the author's name. But it was sent.
Yeah.
The Darl Champion actually sent it out to me. Fortunate enough to get that. So I've been reading that. It's been an excellent book. And Elegant Legal Writing too is a great book as well. I can't recommend it anymore. But I have to ask, have you ever been to like Tony Robbins like live? Like seen him talk?
Yeah.
Oh,
I walked on 1800-degree coals with zero blisters. Yeah, I've done the whole thing. It's phenomenal. It's life-changing. It's transformative.
I
Mhm.
gotta get to one of those. I heard him on the I love the My First Million podcast. I don't know if you ever heard it, but he was on there and he was talking. I was like, this guy's really cool. And like I always knew about him, but like his resume is crazy. I know he's like working with like he worked with like Obama or something for a while, or one of the presidents. He was like his advisor or something. He's just brilliant, and I love the way he speaks because he's like one of the best public speakers I've ever seen in my life.
He's great. He's so great. He really is.
Got to get to a live one. But third to last question.
Good.
Third to last question here. What are the types of things that you consume, not food, consume on a daily basis? Either that be through social media, so like LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Reddit, Substack, any people that you follow that you love looking at all the time. What is crossing the transom of Lisa's mind on a daily basis?
You're so funny. I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the bomb. I think it's great. Every day I post every day, and I love learning from the comments. I love Justin Welsh and Sahil Bloom. I love I've made really cool friends like in my 20,000 some. I actually feel like they're really my friends, those followers. We've taught together, we've done workshops together. Um, you know, um, I love to listen to music, so I'm always listening to 90s R&B or hip hop or 90s essentials because I'm old school like that, and I love rap. That's one of my things when I'm running because I love to run too. Um, and um, the Daily Stoic. I read the Daily Stoic probably once or twice a week. And I also listen to a Bible verse in the morning.
I like that. I should start doing that. I feel like I'd be into that. Um, and I love. So what? Oh, you said you like rap music. No, I love rap music. I'm like the guy. Like if you ask anyone who goes to Albany, and whenever they see me on campus, what is Nate doing? He's listening to music. I have my headphones in at any moment I possibly can. I have my headphones in. Who are like some of your favorite 90s R&B rap rappers? I have to know now. You got me intrigued.
All of the bigs and the good, like Notorious. I love Digital Underground. I love Tribe. I love all
Oh,
any honestly Tupac. I love it all. Snoop, they're my faves. And so I really listen to everyone. I love Bob Marley, even though, he's there, but he's not rap, but I just adore the man or his music. I love basically anything that will make you feel like you want to get up and just start dancing. So
I love a tribe called Quest. Actually, Scenario is like one of my favorite songs ever because Busta Rhymes is in it. He makes it
yes.
it's like before he's Busta Rhymes. It's crazy to listen to. I love that song so much. But my dad, he's older, but he's always listened to rap music. So whenever I was in the car when I was a kid, like we'd listen to Notorious B.I.G., we'd listen to Tupac, A Tribe Called Quest. All the greats of the time. I just had to ask. But
I saw a
second,
big concert actually, and it was amazing. He was playing
wow,
the Loonies at the time. That
wow.
one hit wonder. Yeah,
Oh, that's
he was
some.
great.
I wish I could have done that because I love him. I really, really love his music. It is unbelievable. I- it-
Like Rage Against the Machine, like all those old school, like Red
oh,
Hot Chili Peppers,
oh,
just those good bands, good music of the time.
I love Red Hot. My parents really like Red Hot Chili Peppers, so I've been listening to them my whole life. But even like if we were getting to the early 2000s, I gotta give a shout out. I gotta give a shout out to Outkast. Thank you
Mm.
guys. Like hey
So
ya, like
good. Oh my gosh, so good. I'm obsessed with Imagine Dragons right now, and I can't get enough. Like I just I every single song I could listen to 1,000 times. Like they're incredible, and
oh
his message behind every song and
I,
the
maybe
Maroon 5.
oh, Maroon 5. Oh, Lisa, we could go on all day right now, I
No,
think.
we'll stop.
We have to, because I'll keep talking about music. So
I
second,
love the 60s too. The 60s have such good music. Like all the jams, like every song of the 60s too. Okay, I'll stop. I'm done. I'll stop.
final shout out, final shout out. So second to last question now. You're working, you got Law School Success Institute, you got the Blasser Law, but what does an ideal Friday night and Sunday morning look for Lisa?
Friday night would be getting my kids and my husband and going for a walk or a hike, grabbing, dinner or just making dinner and watching a movie together. And just honestly hanging out and asking each other. We ask each other every day the same three questions. What was the best part of your day? What was the roughest part of your day? And what did you learn today? And so just talking about all those things together. And a Sunday morning would just be, I wish it would be raining. I would be under a blanket. And I would be, just with my little unit, coffee. And I'm pretty simple, dude. I'm a pretty simple human. you know, I used to be party girl, but I am very simple now at 44.
I think it sounds like a tremendous lifestyle. And I love asking the three questions at the end of the day. We used to do that as a family as well at the dinner table. And I think it's great to do that because it's like, you got all these little communities within your household, one kid's talking to the other kid and people are arguing, they're bringing up stuff, they're telling stories. It's just a wonderful thing. It is a wonderful thing. Cultivating a family. I want to do it one day. I'm only 20 years old. I got a little bit of time. But it's such a great thing. I love to hear that, Lisa. But last question here. I do this at the end of every episode, Lisa. What are your words of wisdom for the aspiring law students, the current law students, and the legal professionals out there in the world?
A mix of what we've spoken of. It would be take it one day at a time. Take it one day at a time, and your greatness will shine through.
That's excellent. Well said. Poetic, short, and sweet.
Yeah.
But Lisa,
Yeah.
that's all we got. That's the podcast. So thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for coming on here, spreading your wisdom, spreading your experiences. And for everyone out there listening, check us out. Lawyersinthemaking.substack.com. Lawyers in the Making, one word, one of them. .substack.com. And I will see you in the next one.